Hi everyone, happy Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month. My name is Rochelle and I have a condition called ectrodactyly, which means that I have a few of my limbs in both of my hands and also in my feet. This month is really important because honestly, before I came out about having ectrodactyly online, I did not know that there was a specific month dedicated to people like me. And honestly, that's not okay. We need to be more vocal about it and there needs to be more representation. So in light of that, I'm going to make a few different videos with some of my life experiences, maybe some FAQs of things that you might have wondered seeing my channel and seeing my hands and wanting to know about them, as well as maybe some things that you have wanted to ask other people or you were curious about but maybe didn't get the chance to do so. So with that being said, I thought today we'd start out by talking about dating and stuff like that with people that have limb differences. Now, obviously, I only have experiences with my condition, but it might give a little bit of insight as well as maybe give a pep talk for other people that are considering going into the dating field but a little bit worried of the unknown and rejection and all those things like that. So this is going to be like a little chatty video where maybe think of me as your bigger sister in a way, and we're just kind of sitting down and talking about some of this stuff. So before I begin, a couple of things that I want to talk about would be ableism and inner ableism, because they're both very important terms that will go and help throughout the discussion and throughout some of the things that I talk about through this video. So to begin, Access Living, they defined ableism as the discrimination of a social prejudice against people with disabilities based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. At its heart, ableism is rooted in the assumption that disabled people require fixing and defines people by their disability. And then internalized ableism is the way that an individual absorbs and applies the beliefs and moral judgments of the dominant ableist culture at a subconscious level. In other words, it's how we absorb and apply the beliefs our society has about disability to ourselves and to others we see ourselves in. So the first one, I found that definition on Access Living, and then the second one, it kind of seemed like a generalized term that someone had in their blog, but I really loved how they went and described it. So I was like, I'm gonna have that down in my little notebook with some of the notes that I want to make sure to talk about specific subjects and other things that I think are important to mention. With dating and everything, I honestly didn't really get a good glimpse into it until after I moved out of my hometown. So I was born in a predominantly white and kind of redneck town. I was one of the few people of color and kind of labeled as the token Asian. I'm biracial, so I have a white father and a mother that's from the Philippines. And it was an interesting experience growing up being biracial and disabled. So I don't know if it was because, it was a very small town, so it felt like there weren't a lot of dating options, but also people were kind of more interested in the people that were blonde or, sporty, stuff like that. They weren't really interested in the Asian girl that loved different food, traveled out of the state, and was into theater and stuff like that. I didn't really fully click with anyone in my hometown. Sure, there were crushes and stuff like that, but no romantic relationships. Flash forward to going to college, I was a little bit nervous because one of the things that I was really grateful and lucky about with my hometown was that people grew up being used to my disabilities. So they were used to the fact that I looked the way I did. It was normal. Sure, there might be a new kid that moved to the school and there would be the whole thing on like, oh yeah, hey, I have 4 fingers. I don't have a middle finger. I can't flip you off, stuff like that. And yeah, there was just really not too many issues that way. There might have been a few things here and there. Anyway, let's flash forward to going to college. And going to college, I was like, this is gonna be so exciting. It's gonna be a whole new world. There's gonna be all sorts of different types of people with different interests, and it's gonna be amazing. And as someone that always loved watching romance shows, reading romance books, I always had this perfect image of the perfect relationship. Although I had that in my mind, at the same time, I was like, how is someone going to react to my limb differences? Yes, I'm going to be going to college in a bigger city. They might be more exposed to that and used to that, but what if they're not? So, I had those thoughts in the back of my head, but it didn't seem to be too big of an issue. And I've always been fairly confident with my limb differences, at least with my hands, because they're out in the open. People can see them if I'm grabbing something. With my feet, I'm a little bit more uncomfortable and still working on confidence there because they're always covered up. They're not out in the open. So I'm used to them not being a topic unless I'm at a swimming pool or walking around in my socks. And speaking of socks, when I was kind of seeing someone in college and everything, we'd hung out a few times, and I was in his dorm. I didn't have my shoes on, I had my socks on, and he just happened to look down and he's like, your foot looks really weird. And for context, this is the foot that he was talking about. So I have 2 toes, and that will be something for a different video. We're not going to show my feet in this one, but I remember he looked down at my foot and he's like, your foot looks really weird. I was like, oh yeah, that's because I have 2 toes. And I whipped my socks off, and he just had this look of utter shock. And then I was like, yeah, I also have 4 fingers on both of my hands. And his mind was just blown, and he just didn't really know how to react. And in my mind, I'm like, really, you've not seen anyone that looks like this? I'm from a small town, so my mind with someone from a bigger city, especially this person being from Hawaii, I was like, okay, they've gotta have experience with someone with limb differences, with shark attacks, stuff like that. And I even said that to him, and he's like, no, I've never seen anyone like that. And apparently later I found out his roommates were completely aware of my limb differences, and they were like, you've never noticed this? But I didn't learn about that later. With this whole conversation and everything, he ended up walking me to my dorm room, and I was just thinking in my head, if this guy chooses not to talk to me again because he's in utter shock of my limb differences, that's fine. That's just him taking himself out, saving me the time and the energy on someone that is not accepting of limb differences. And fast forward, he was okay with it, but my initial thoughts went along this line. Okay, so obviously that relationship didn't work out, but it wasn't because of limb differences. It was just different personalities and things just not mixing. So let's fast forward to some of my other dating experiences. So with online dating, I did, of course, have this battle where I was like, should I post photos that show my hands, or should I not? And at this point in my life, even though I was very comfortable with my limb differences, one of the things I was not comfortable about was having them in pictures and showing them online, because my thought process was, at least in person, I'm able to control the narrative. I'm able to control the questions that are being asked. But when it's online, it's completely out of my control. How is someone going to react? But anyway, with my dating profile and creating it that way, I chose to not include my limb differences or have photos that really showed them. Like maybe I might have had a photo where I was holding a book, and you might have been able to see my hands if you were paying attention, but it wasn't something that was like the main focus of the photos that I had on my dating profile. And this honestly wasn't a problem on a lot of dates. I chose not to, bring them up in any of the conversations when we were chatting. But of course, when you're having a meal, like with breakfast or maybe dinner with someone on a date, you might be drinking a glass of water or eating something, and they're like, hey, what's wrong with your hands? And then, of course, the conversation progresses from there. And that was one of the things that I'm comfortable with, is that I am fine with people going and asking questions to me in person. The one thing I don't like is when it's obvious that they're staring and you can tell they want to ask, but they choose not to. They just continue staring. That's always been something that I don't like. And To be honest, if you're an able-bodied person watching this video and you're on a date with someone with a limb difference, just ask. You know, it's completely normal and natural to go and ask these questions, and I can promise that they will feel a lot better with you asking instead of knowing that you're staring and not asking these questions. So moving on, of course, when you're dating, there's going to be people that limb differences and things like that, they don't matter at all. But unfortunately, you are going to have a date with someone that isn't okay with this. And this is where ableism comes into play. So I actually met someone that I was like, they check off all of my boxes. They're everything I was hoping for. They're so understanding, etc. I was so happy. But there happened to be a date that we went on, and there was an Egyptian exhibit. We were sort of museum. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but we were at a museum. There was a prompt that we were reading for one of the displays, and it said something about disabilities. And with me, I am very open. I communicate, maybe over communicate, because we all love word vomit as someone with anxiety. And I was like, oh yeah, so if I have kids someday, they might also have my limb differences as well. And suddenly it was just like everything completely changed. Suddenly there was this huge problem. And he's like, wait, you can't have kids? And I was like, no, I can have kids, but it's just kind of a greater conversation. I don't know what the outlook could be. I've always been told that this is something I have to consider when having kids someday, and I just know that I want to talk to a geneticist and just get a clear picture of what's going on. And it was like he didn't hear any of these things. He was stuck on the narrative on this person I'm with can't have kids. And his family came from a background in the medical field. They were both very well educated. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you talk to them about it? I only have a brief introduction with some of the things I read for a high school project, but aside from that, I don't really know. And to be honest, I haven't really looked into it because I don't want to know until I get to that point in my life, which I think is completely fair, because at some point, you know, you'll think about those things if you choose to have kids. But if you're not, why should you feel pressure to go and look into those things now? So he ended up going and talking to his mom, and this was something that still bothers me to this day, because I know the type of person I am, and it hurts to know that someone made these automatic judgments based on what I looked like and what my limb differences were without knowing anything about me. So he talked to his mom, and obviously I wasn't there, but from what I was told, his mom told him on the phone, you need to decide whether or not you want to have kids, because if you choose to be with her, you cannot have kids at all. And basically told him that he needed to break up with me. And so that narrative was in his mind. And I constantly had this inner battle of like, okay, I totally can't blame him. I understand where he's coming from. I think I would do the same thing if I was in his place. And this was my own inner ableism talking, and I didn't realize it until later when I talked to other people. So fast forward to him breaking up with me. He ended things and basically defined it as, I don't want to move out of this state. I don't want to have cats. I don't want to have this, this, or this. Never once bringing up my limb differences. So there was kind of that, but also like, I really care about you. I don't want to end things, but I think this is the best decision. And always trust your instinct. That's one thing I'm gonna say, because I had this gut feeling that, okay, something is not right here. And one thing I will always say is to trust your instincts and trust your gut. A few months later, I got the courage to message him. I think I had reopened my dating profiles and I saw him on there. That said something about how him and I were the perfect match. I was like, okay, here's my shot to go and message him. Here's this stuff I can open up with. And I asked him, you know, we were having this conversation. He said that he took the picture as well of that, but he wasn't going to talk to me about it. And he had these thoughts on, did he make the decision, yada, yada, yada. and also going and saying like, no, it's not going to work out. I was like, okay, answer me one question. Is the reason you don't want to pursue anything with me because of my limb differences? And he told me, you're going to hate me, but yes. And automatically I had my answer. I had my closure. It hurts to get confirmation because this was the first time I've ever been rejected because of my limb differences. I couldn't understand that someone was making these decisions because of this. They couldn't think that I was capable, I was worthy of doing things. Even said that he morally could not go through with having children that had limb differences. And this was something that I had to think about for a long time afterwards. So I got my confirmation, and I talked to other people when they were like, are you still together? And I was like, no. And when they asked why, I said, well, he didn't want to have kids with limb differences, and that was the deal breaker. And I was like, I can't blame him. I understand where he's coming from. And everyone told me, no, you are completely wrong. He was a jerk. That is not okay. And I was like, no, 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 no. Kept making excuses. And after a while realized, no, it was me basically going and gaslighting myself and struggling with my own inner ableism, because I know what I'm capable and worthy of doing. Just because I'm missing a few fingers doesn't mean I can do this stuff. It just might be a little bit harder. And yes, if I can't do it myself, I can ask for help. With having two toes on my right foot, yeah, there's some shoes I can't go and wear, but I can wear other shoes. These limitations don't make it impossible for me to do things. And I think that was the narrative that he had. He wasn't exposed to people with limb differences, and that's part of the thing. There is not a lot of representation, but one of the great things too with all of this was when I got the courage to come out and speak out about my limb differences, I found these amazing communities on Instagram, and actually did find quite a few people that have the same limb differences as me, which is really, really awesome. As someone that grew up in a small town, I kind of felt alone. I didn't think that there were others out there like me. And with that, it kind of gave me a little bit more empowerment and confidence to go and talk about my journey, my experiences, and also heal from my inner ableism. So how did I get back into dating after this experience with rejection? And honestly, it was really hard. I still battled with the same thoughts of, should I include photos of myself on my profile, or should I continue to do what I was doing before and not have that information on there? And one of the things that I forgot to mention was when I got confirmation that my ex had rejected me because of my limb differences, he had also told me that I should have had this stuff about myself on my profile. So he basically knew what he was getting into with all of this. And yeah, that was a thought when I was making my profile. But again, I was like, okay, even though I am feeling empowered about my limb differences, I am worthy of love, I am deserving of all these things, I am capable. It's like, I still don't want that to be the thing that they instantly focus on. And yes, I'm lucky enough that my limb differences might not be as noticeable, but this was still something that I personally felt was the move that I wanted to go with. And so I continued, going on dates and everything like that. And I didn't have any other experiences with people being like, oh yeah, no, I'm not okay with your hands. They're like, no, that's just a part of who you are. That's not something that matters. And then I met my partner. So with this, it was a very interesting experience because I had started, like I said, I started my journey of posting things about my limb differences. I made a few videos on TikTok, and I met my partner. He started the conversation and we decided to move to texting. And through that, we were kind of talking about little videos that we like to watch for mood boosts. And I was like, oh, I love watching animal rescue videos on TikTok. And he's like, oh, okay. So I sent him a few of mine. And I'm not very good with technology. I don't know about some of these things. And I was not aware that when you send a video to someone on TikTok, it will link to your account. So when that happened, he saw my profile and ended up watching some of my videos, and he ended up liking them. And the entire time I'm like, oh my gosh, he saw the videos where I was talking about my hand. Okay, is he gonna ask? Is this gonna be a deal breaker? Am I not gonna hear from him anymore? And nothing was brought up. It wasn't until we had our first date in person that the conversation kind of happened, where we were talking about some of our baggage, and I ended up going and bringing up the fact that he saw some of my videos, and we had kind of talked about it too over text, where he's like, oh, I can unfollow you and everything, it's not a problem. And he thought it was because of that, whereas in my mind, I'm like, no, he saw my TikTok videos. He knows that I have 4 fingers. So when I was able to bring that conversation up in person, he was like, yeah, no, I saw that. That didn't matter to me. And that's the thing that I want to point out here, is that to the people that you truly want to date and have a meaningful relationship with, these things won't matter to them. But the people that do, they're showing their true colors to you. The people that automatically write you off saying, oh, I can't be with them because they're not capable, they're not worthy of having a relationship. If they're saying that, or their family is saying that and pushing you to not pursue a relationship, immediate red flag. That is showing their true colors and showing that you do not want to waste the time and energy for them, or with them. I mean, this situation, my partner, he showed his true colors. He right away was like, no, that's not something that matters to me. If I'm able to have kids of my own, love that. If not, I'm fine with adopting. He was like, if that's, and this was a lot of big topics to have on a first date, but at the same time, I really appreciated it, because as someone that went on a date and faced this rejection, there was some insecurity in the background where I'm like, is someone going to see this as a deal breaker? Are they going to completely write me off again? And so having those big conversations where it's like, yeah, no, if this is where we get in our relationship, that's something that we can handle and deal with when we get there, but that's not a deal breaker. And that's the thing, like, when you find someone that is serious and worthy of a relationship with you, those things don't matter to them. So with all that being said, I want my experiences to kind of give you hope and an idea of what dating could look like. Yes, there will be rejection. Yes, there will be some very interesting reactions, but at the same time, there will be questions. And that's something that you'll have to prepare yourself for when you do go into dating. Knowing that there's going to be questions, are you comfortable answering them? And if not, are you comfortable establishing a boundary, saying, yes, I'm fine with talking about some of these things, but I'm not quite comfortable talking about this or this. As it is to go and answer some of these questions, because people don't know, you also want to respect yourself and what you're comfortable with going and saying. And honestly, don't give up. There might be a few situations that absolutely suck, but if you let those stop you from continuing to date and, meeting new people, it might stop you from meeting someone that is an amazing person and could be an amazing partner for you. So I hope that you realize that you are 100% worthy, 100% capable of having an amazing relationship with someone. Whether they're able-bodied or disabled, it doesn't matter. Disabled is not a dirty word. So I hope that you learned something from this video. Like I said, I will be posting a few more videos for Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you all more. Bye, everyone.